Hello everybody and welcome this evening to our experimental strand. I'm Devon, that's Harry. We're going to be your hosts for this evening. We were also programmers for this strand. Our other two programmers are Alex and Adam, who are on the cameras tonight. Give them a wave, everyone.
Legends.
Absolute legends. So tonight is actually our final live screening of the week, which is absolutely gutting, I know, because they've all been absolutely thrilling. But fear not, the party goes on. We have our awards evening tomorrow night at Scale. There's going to be a bar there. You're going to get a chance to chat to us. And you have the potential to watch some of your favourite films all over again. Now, we've certainly enjoyed being here this year. I think it's easy to say that this is probably the best edition of the festival that we've had. Sorry, Peter.
No shade.
None at all. And that's not just because of the hard work that the team has put in this year, but also because of you guys showing up each night and supporting us. So thank you so much for coming every single night.
Yeah, absolutely. A quick show of hands to everyone here. Has anyone been here for any of the other days of the Strands? Have you enjoyed it? Yeah. Fantastic.
Wow, that was enthusiastic.
Yeah, I know. That was a better reception than I thought. Well, for the last day of screenings, we have something special for you.
Do we?
Yeah.
We definitely do. Of course we do. It's the experimental films. Now, it can often be difficult to explain what an experimental film strand looks like, you know, to share what it's truly about and what's really going on. Do you know how we can kind of
I don't think it's difficult at all.
No?
No. The experimental film strand is all about experimenting with experimental filmmaking within the experimental film strand of the Experimental John Moores Film Festival. Well, maybe not that last one. No, I might mess that up.
It's definitely not an experimental festival.
But the strand is all about discovering the abstract and the explorative ideas that we can put onto film.
Yeah. I think you've captured the essence of the strand there, Harry. I mean, I think we've still got some explaining to do, though, because this strand has a lot more to it. It's about love and difficult journeys and destruction as well, and so many more topics.
Yeah, it's a lot deeper. With this strand, we feel there's an opportunity here to experience the world in new and interesting ways. Being able to immerse yourselves into the distinctive visions of these creators, which we've selected for you, and to view film in a new avant-garde, visceral format. And with that, we have a few amazing selections to present to you for tonight. And we'd like to welcome you to the experimental strand of LJMU MA SFF.
Yes, but hold yourself, Max.
Hold the clap.
Got a quick cut in before we go there, Max. Just a reminder for you all, there is an audience award at this festival, which is where you guys come in. You guys watching at home and you guys here as well. You are the ones that choose which film wins that award. So at the end of every film, loads of you have been here, you know how it works. A card will flash up on the screen with a little QR code. And if you scan that, the film page will come up on the website and you just press like. If you didn't like the film, don't bother, that's fine. The filmmakers don't need to know. If it flashes up a little too quickly for you, all the QR codes are in our handy dandy little program here. So please vote away. You can vote as many times for as many films as you want. So please vote as much as possible. The filmmakers do enjoy the love. And we've also got our incredible letterbox competition running at the moment, created by Oscar, so thank you for that, Oscar.
This man right here.
Yep, the letterbox wizard himself. So, the rules for that are, you've got to review a minimum of 10 films from the program. How many films do we have from the program? 37? Yeah. So you've got to review a minimum of 10.
Oscar knows.
See, it's like he set it up. So you've got to review a minimum of 10 films with a minimum of 50 words, and you're in with a chance of winning a great prize. Isn't that right, Harry?
Fantastic prize.
What is it?
£50 Amazon gift voucher for you to spend on anything experimental. Maybe not. Maybe not
experimental. But you get the gist. So I think it's time to watch the films.
Yeah, just one more thing, okay? I know we've been joking around, but some of the films that we have tonight they cover some quite charged topics, so just viewer discretion's advised.
Particularly for the last film, she's asking for it. So if you do want to leave or you don't think you can quite watch it, that's okay. Feel free to walk out one of the doors. But aside from that, enjoy the films.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello? We ready?
We are ready indeed.
Stunning.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We've got, as you can see, we've got some of our lovely directors on the screen ready to take some questions about their incredible films. We're going to start off quickly by getting the directors to introduce themselves. So if you could quickly tell us your names and tell us what film you directed. So we're going to start with, Minna. Do you want to go first?
Hello, my name is Mina Abalian. I'm from Boston, and I directed Udenk, Let's Eat.
Okay, and Raphael, do you want to go next? Ooh, I don't think we can hear Raphael. Do you want to try again? Oh no, we still can't hear you.
Should we throw it
I was
over
gonna
to
say, yeah,
one of the others?
Yeah,
and we'll
Abby,
see
do you want
if-
to go next while we figure out what's going on?
Yep. So I'm Abby. I'm the director of Atrophy, and I'm based in England.
Perfect. And then Margaret, do you want to go next?
Hi, so I'm the director of One Crow's Sorrow, and I'm based in Estonia.
Cool. Raphael, do you think we've got it fixed?
I can try. Can you?
Oh, there we go.
That's perfect.
Lovely to hear
Okay.
from you.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm Raphael Heinisch, one of the directors of A Train Arrives, and I'm from Dortmund, Germany.
Perfect. Okay. Amazing. Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So we have some questions here that we would like to ask you about your amazing films, and then after a couple of questions, we'll throw it out to the floor and see if the audience would like to ask you some. Let's start with Minna. Where are the questions? I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Your film was lovely. Was it about your family? And we wanted to ask about the choice of mixed media footage.
Yeah, so it originally started as kind of just a visual dictionary to Armenian food and my culture. And then it kind of just kept twisting into being more specific to my family and a love letter to how food has connected me through the generations of ancestors, especially with my grandfather who passed in the middle of production, who was there at the end. And mixed media wise, it's definitely something that I've always loved collaging, but it wasn't until I was in school and had an experimental class that I kind of dived a bit deeper into, okay, well, how does that work for animation? How do you make something move at the same time? And I love a vignette style of storytelling, so it felt like the perfect way to me to kind of show all these different things in all these different ways and get to experiment and just have fun with all these bite-sized little pieces, and then hopefully put them together in a cohesive manner that, gives off that cozy home nostalgic vibe while also dealing with grief, and just, it was quite the process.
Yeah, and it was incredible as well. That mixed media element really, the animation really enhanced the kind of heartwarming nature of the story. It was really lovely to see. I'm going to go for, who should I pick next? We'll go Margaret next. Margaret, I really love your film. It's incredible, but I want to know, why The Crow? Why was that the focus?
Thank you. Yeah, The Crow. It's sort of, I needed something to tie the story together a bit more. And The Crow, as one of the most common city birds, it made sense to me in a mythological way, because I think in many countries, in Estonia as well, crow has this sort of symbol of a bad omen, that if we hear like crow cawing, let's say like in some classic horror films, thrillers, and usually something bad is about to happen. And for me, it seemed like a good sort of symbol in this context of eco-anxiety and being concerned about the environment as well.
Amazing.
That's great to hear. I thought your film was very visually distinctive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great watch. I'm going to move it over to Abby. Speaking of visually distinctive, I thought yours was very, very
Captivating.
captivating.
Yeah.
That is the word I was looking for.
You're welcome.
How did you achieve the look of your film?
First of all, thank you. There was a lot of experimentation and tests. Most of it's made out of watercolor and ink drops, and I just really wanted it to be vibrant and beguiling, especially because it covers the topic of a house fire, a flat fire, which was from my own personal experience. And there's something so trance-like about flames, and so I just wanted it to be this big, beautiful thing rather than something that's so destructive and horrible. So yeah, it was just trying to make it really vibrant and really bright. Yeah.
Nice. And the effects that you had on those photos within the animation, sorry, this sounds incredibly ignorant. Was that digitally done, or was that what they actually looked like after the fire?
No, yeah, so I had a stack of about 100 photos. And so when the apartment burnt, we weren't allowed to go in for 6 months. And in that time, mold had grown, and it was obviously sat in so much water. So as I was peeling off the photos, they were just leaving behind this print, which I just thought was so beautiful. So I just scanned them all in, and they're not edited apart from turning up the vibrance, but that's pretty much it.
Wow, that's incredible. Raphael, we're going to come to you next. The soundscape for A Train Arrives was particularly interesting. What was the inspiration? What was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, actually, there I'm not the right person to ask. Actually, that was a perfect question for the sound designers, because they had a lot of free space to experiment. And actually, the film wasn't planned with sound, and it was planned completely visual. And then I decided to ask some people from my university if they can make the sound design. And I had something in mind, but it was completely different from what they showed me at for the first time. And then we decided to elaborate on that kind of ground they've created. And there was the topic with the train, which was important, and the wind was important, and the scratches of the film material was important. But I know that they just let go, kind of, when they recorded it. Someone of them told me that they screamed into the microphone and something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you said the film was designed visually first, and then the soundscape kind of came afterwards. Did that mean that you had to reshoot what you already had to kind of enhance it a bit more, or did it just fit perfectly?
No, they put the sound design on top of what actually was there, because we only had 3 rolls of film, which is not much. It's like 9 minutes, and we couldn't reshoot anything. We just shot it on 2 days. It was during January, and it was pretty fast dark outside, and we didn't had enough time to shoot a lot. And we first edited it without any sound in mind, and then I showed it to the sound designers and asked them to work with it. And actually, I think that the sound design added 50% to it, to what was already there.
Yeah, fantastic. I'd like to go back to Minna. You said that your film was based around your own familial connections with your grandfather, who sadly passed away. Having also experienced something similar to that, I think it made me feel very much like I wish I had my own film to look back on, to remember them by. Do you feel any sort of way that you now have this project out there in the world that can make people feel the way that you feel about your own family?
It definitely is a very special thing. I think it kind of didn't really hit me until it showed this was my thesis film, so for my senior year of college. And it wasn't until like the big opening night, everyone's playing their films, and I think my film went last that evening. And towards the end, where it's all of those very slow photos of my family that have the black and white with it's a decayed film, not film strips, but like when you do the enlargements and you kind of do exposure tests, those pieces have been done years ago. And so I kind of overlaid them with the final image to like show the decay of it. But it wasn't until those moments where everything kind of slows down and it's just these photos of just my family in these very quiet moments that it kind of hit me like, wow, like all these people are actually watching the very raw story. And even now, all the way there across the ocean, people are watching it, and that's such a special thing. And it is beautiful to be able to look back at that and kind of see and just remember as well, like the process that I went through of having to make it, and that it truly was a blood, sweat, and tears sort of thing, because I was just completely distraught and depressed over his passing, that it kind of took every bit of strength to be like, well, let me put that aside, and how can I honor him and all the things that he taught me, and kind of just really make it dedicated to that.
I think it was really immortalizing in a way. Do you know what I mean? He'll be there forever.
Oh, definitely.
And that's an absolutely great feeling.
Yeah, and I think you could definitely feel that kind of emotional shift in the room when it transitioned towards that end sequence, like you're saying. It was really impactful. I'm going to go to Abby again. Abby, the audio that you used, they sounded like interviews. Were they interviews that you recorded specifically for the project, or did you find them kind of online and on news reports and stuff like that?
So I think all of them bar one were voice memos that I recorded at the time. And so the actual file was coming up 4 years ago. And so I had no idea that I was going to make this film at all. I hadn't even started an animation degree. I didn't know anything about animation. But they were just snippets that I recorded to save for later. And yeah, there was only one, the man's voice at the end, that was from a news interview. But yeah, all of it was recorded at the time.
Wow, okay.
Did you feel any sort of kind of like you wanted to hold them back from putting them in the film, or were you kind of happy to put them out there for people to see? I mean, obviously I know they're in the film, but...
Yeah, so the last one was me. And that was recorded, I think, an hour after I got home. So that was really raw and horrible to play back. But I think, yeah, I mean, it was the perfect end to the film. And I think the whole process of making that film was so cathartic that it felt necessary to include that, to let that part go. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd be that strong to be able to put that in.
Oh, no, I don't think I could cope.
No.
It takes a real kind of will to put that into a film.
Yeah. Margaret, talking about your film, I've got two questions that kind of link into each other. We personally thought the color grade kind of made the film look very sort of dark and kind of drained a little bit. And I wanted to basically find out if there was any reasoning behind that.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Maybe I didn't think of it so exactly, but there was definitely when I was having the initial discussions with my color grader and the sort of inspiration I used, I guess you could call it that indeed. Maybe it's just to reflect the sort of feeling I was exploring in the film. It doesn't have a very specific explanation that I could give you.
Oh, that's fair. It was just something we thought might have spoken to something a bit deeper. And that was what I wanted to kind of ask you next, was a lot of what your film was kind of showing off. Was there a personal connection between you and a lot of the images that you put out in your film?
Well, I was shooting them. That's the personal connection. And it's they were shot in a place where I've been born and I'm still living in. So all the spaces included in the film, I guess they are quite personal because they all have their own sort of memories for me. And yeah, some of, like, let's say, for example, the eagles, I had already observed them before, and I was sort of planning, I was hoping to find them. So they were sort of like familiar to me already before the filming. Yeah, I guess that's what I can say about it.
Yeah, so, sorry if I asked that a bit awkwardly. It was more like we've done some work where we've been out filming around the cities that we live in, and we found that you kind of find yourself going to places that mean a lot to you.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I wanted to ask you.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, I think it could be the case. It's maybe it wasn't completely conscious. Maybe I was more thinking about like what sort of places could provide something that's visually interesting, or the sort of wildlife or details I was looking for. But I think definitely maybe there was also something within that was also guiding me there.
Right, I think you chose
could be
well,
possible.
because a lot of the wildlife shots were incredible.
Oh, they were so striking. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's time to open our questions up to the floor. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Oh, Viv up the back. All the way up the top of the stairs, Lizzie.
Oh, we're doing a handoff.
It's like a real... Oh, John, that's not what we needed. Please be careful.
Hi, I'm going to make Margaret work again. Sorry, Margaret. I was really impressed, and in its own right, I thought it was a great wildlife film. You obviously are familiar with the territory, but how many hours did you spend with your camera waiting for these birds? And was it a stoat or a weasel? It was... How long did it take you to get these wonderful images?
So the risky thing with this project was that I actually had very limited amount of time. I basically had 1 month, which I know for some projects it's more than enough, but for this it was quite scary because I might not get anything at all. So one thing was luck. One thing was that I already had some ideas where I could find some of those animals. But of course, they might not show up. There's always quite a lot of risk. But yeah, I was for some shots, I was waiting maybe 3 hours, 4 hours. Never knowing whether actually something is going to happen. But
It paid off. It paid off. Yeah.
Yeah. And there were also moments where I was actually looking for something else, but then something I hadn't expected happened instead, and it was actually better. Yeah.
It was wonderful to watch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for any of our directors? We've got Alex up the back.
Hello. My question is for Margaret as well. Through the shot composition, you can clearly see the increase in urban development infringing on the natural areas. I was just wondering if you would care to expand on this, if it was a passion project or something, and also if from your film it had any environmental benefit in Estonia. I don't know if within Estonia itself or within your institution, if it would kind of had some positive benefit with this kind of eye-opening film.
Thank you so much for your comments. It was my thesis project. I studied documentary film master's course, and it was I decided to go for this sort of an experimental approach. it hasn't been screened very widely yet. It had a little screening in Estonia, but it wasn't like, it was mainly for people like kind of people we already knew, family and friends. So it hasn't had that sort of impact, but it's very useful to know that it maybe could have this potential. About the urban development, that's definitely a problem. It has been discussed in sort of TV style things, but as far as I know, not like in this kind of more creative style. But yeah, there are places where there are new buildings built that kind of block the green corridors. So the wild animals, let's say, also bigger ones like moose, they get stuck. And then conflicts happen between animals and humans. So it is something that I have thought about and researched. And it's good if it's showing in the film as well.
I've got a couple more questions. I don't want to hog the mic. But Raphael, I was wondering, for A Train Arrives, you kind of went for this black and white stylistic approach. I was just wondering why, first of all, and if you had any directors or influencers that kind of encouraged you to go through this approach.
Yeah, the black and white is because the film material is black and white, 60 millimeter Kodak. Yeah, but we, if I remember correctly, we had to invert it after digitizing it. Yeah, and influences a lot. I would say maybe there are more influences than I know. At that time, I think I thought a lot about Maya Deren films. One of the early short films from Chantal Ackermann, Blow Up My Town, was always an influence because it was so simple and so rough and still interesting. Peter Tchaikovsky, especially when it comes to working with the material itself. And yeah, there's a, I don't know if it's a Japanese film, it's called Tetsuo the Iron Man, which also was so experimental that I thought I have to do this. And I would say there's also something of the original Evil Dead film in it, when it comes to the camera movement. Yeah, and also like The Last Law from Murnau, who directed also the Nosferatu, I think. I hope I'm not incorrect with it, but yeah, there's a lot of influence, like through the whole film history, I guess.
Great. Mina, what is Odenk or Udenk? What does it mean?
So it basically translates to let's eat. There was a couple of different words I was trying to think of, and then I was trying to find ones that would best be pronounced as well. And I feel like Udenk kind of made the most sense, where whatever accent you said it with, you could kind of come to the same, what's the word I'm looking for? The same like pronunciation in a way, but it essentially means Udenk, or like come and sit around the table. Yeah.
And one final question for everyone. Sorry. What did you all hope to achieve from your films? Starting from, I'm taking over it. Taking over the host.
Do you want to come and sit down here?
Yeah. We'll start from Raphael.
Yeah, it was the first time working with analog film, and we had this course where we had the possibility to work with it, and we just wanted to make as much as possible. So style over substance, and yeah, we just wanted to experiment so much that that I don't have the feeling that I have to do it again. So I think that was kind of a goal. And actually, when it was finished, I don't have the urge so much anymore to work with analog film. And now I think I can look more forward into the digital age of filmmaking and what are the possibilities with experimenting with the digital way of filmmaking.
Should we move it on to Margaret to answer?
Yeah, whoever.
So I don't really have sort of one goal what I want this film to do, but for me it was trying something. I mean, it wasn't necessarily new for me, but I was kind of expanding some ideas I had had before and trying out if it works. And it's just kind of way to, like, it's the kind of style that I'm interested in and I want to get better at. So it was just, I just see it kind of as a first step or one of the steps to improving or getting somewhere that I could be very happy with. I think that's it.
Should we move on to Abby next?
Yeah. So I think my main goal was to fill a room with color, for it to be mesmerizing, and to get completely lost in the visuals before you understand the full scale. Because I think at the time of a fire or just any chaotic event or whatever, you don't understand the full scale till afterwards. So it's just trying to get everyone present in the moment, lost in the visuals, with deep rumbling bass, and just something so beautiful before you understand the full scale and the full extent of the damage. Yeah.
Amazing. And then lastly, down to Minna.
So it started as just wanting to kind of show this connection of how important food can be to different cultures and connecting, people to their own families across generations. And of course, that took a more personal turn to just heal through my own grief, and getting to finally share with my family, seeing their reaction seemed like it was so cathartic for them to kind of see all of these memories on screen and have a more tangible, in a way, sort of representation of what our family is just like. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, of course, I'll take the microphone. I think we've got a question from Max as well.
Yeah, you do. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say these films are fantastic. I have so much respect for experimental filmmakers because I cannot think that far outside of the box myself. So it's a joy to be able to see, these visions of yours and the intricacy in how you put it together. I wanted to know, and this is again for everyone, what drew you to tell this particular story or to make this particular film in an unconventional way? Was it a case of it worked for this film in particular, or do you as filmmakers just prefer working in a more unconventional way? Again, I loved these films, so thank you very much for being here tonight.
Great question. We'll go to Margaret first.
So yeah, in my case, it's the latter. That I just like working in an unconventional way. I'm interested in poetic documentary, experimental documentary, and that's the direction that I aim for also in the future.
Perfect. And let's go to Raphael next.
For me, I think it's both. This film couldn't work when it would have been made with a digital camera, because it wouldn't make sense to experiment in that way with a digital image. So I wouldn't make a film like this again, probably. But I like film in general and in every aspect, and I love it when it's like fast and flickering, and when it's not telling a story. And on the other hand, I love documentaries, and I really love slow cinema and the contemplative cinema, and yeah, it goes in all directions, I guess.
Amazing. Okay, we're going to go to Minna next.
The film that I made prior to this one was a much more traditional animation style. It was all 2D, digital, kind of more of like a Disney-esque back in the day sort of thing. So with this one, I knew already going into like my thesis project on my senior year that I wanted to go the experimental route to just try something different. And I loved the intuitive aspect of kind of making with your hands and doing one frame after the next. So I think that was my main thing going into it, is knowing that I wanted to do something that wasn't as traditional. And then the story just kind of came up.
And Abby, what about you?
I think when I was making this film, I didn't know which way it was going to go in terms of narrative or even style. A lot of my working practice is just making a mess and testing everything and seeing what sticks. Like I was burning photos at one point, I was boiling, bleaching, using drain unblocker. It was just, it was every material I could get my hand on, I was trying everything. So yeah, I guess for me, it was just the process which resulted in this outcome. I can't necessarily predict, but it was a lot of fun to see where it would end up.
Okay, I think we've got another question from the audience as well.
Hi, my question's for Minna. So, you mentioned that at some point you got into collaging, I think during your experimental classes, and I can definitely see that. What other like inspirations did you have for Udank? Because to me, the moment I saw it, it gave me like digital scrapbook type of vibes.
Yeah, I've always loved putting collages together. I've been very crafty since I was a kid. And in my experimental course, the kind of first thing that we did is we were given 100 index cards or note cards, and we had to do 100 different drawings, shoot them in 10 different ways, and then figure out a way to kind of put them together cohesively. And then through doing that and all these other little films that we made in the class, I kind of realized that I just love aesthetics. That's like a really big part of my work, is kind of like Raphael said, is style over substance sometimes. So this time I kind of wanted to see how I could add that substance and make it more than just a collage and use things that are actually very meaningful to me. I spent hours going through home videos, digitizing them, scanning photographs at my grandmother's house. And so kind of just, yeah, also similar to what Abby said, is my favorite thing, just throwing things and seeing what sticks. So yeah.
And another question, I think, yeah, I've got like one more question for you, Minna. Actually, no, two more questions, sorry. Going back to that, style over substance, was there any time during the production process at all that you felt that you may have lost the plot a bit? I'm not saying you did. I'm not saying you did. Just like you may have felt that you did. And how did you kind of come back from that? Like come back to you recenter yourself, pretty much.
I think that, and that was really hard too, is just making the film was such a grueling process. It was a whole year, halfway through, begin the lovely process of grieving. And so it kind of ended up that vignette storytelling that I wanted to do ended up very much being that kind of micro. And every week I'd say, okay, let me just I know I want to do this shot, so let me just try to figure out, how to make it. And I think the main thing as well was kind of going back to those original sources that I had. That's something that we talked a lot about, or with my professor too, is he'd always say, try to keep that same excitement as when you had the idea, no matter if it's a week out, a month out, or a year out. And that was very difficult. But I think going back to all of those materials that I had in the very beginning helped. And I think I started adding more of my own family photos and more of the like digitized VHS tapes and stuff that we had because I had all of that already. It was on a big hard drive. And so kind of just going through that as my inspiration always sort of allowed me to remember what the film was about by watching these videos and hearing these sounds of everyone. So I think that kind of helped me decide a bit, okay, what's actually important to show? What's something that I can include, even if it's just a different color or a different little recipe in the background that will kind of add more of that meaning.
Yeah, especially the last bit of footage of everyone dancing in a circle, that really resonated with me. I thought it was really fun. And that brings me to my last question. How would you want your movie to speak, either or, sorry. How would you want that to speak to someone who either doesn't have that kind of connection, that kind of through line from generation to generation like you have with food, or just doesn't have that kind of connection at all with it, any kind of connection at all with their family, or has no family at all? And how do you manage your expectations for how you want your work to speak to someone and how they interpret it? Like, what's the thought process like?
That's a really good question. That's something that actually I feel like I'd also have to turn back to my professor again for that, is that in all the one-on-one discussions we'd have, he would always say that the more personal you make something, the more that someone else can actually connect to it, which I feel like seems really counterintuitive, but I found it to be so true, is that the more that I put of these details of my specific family, kind of like if you have a book, right? The more details you add about the world and whatnot, the more someone can imagine it or connect with it. And I was definitely really worried about that. And even my dad, I remember at one point, he came to a festival with me and he was like, what are people going to do wanting to watch us, you know? But actually, when I started hearing the feedback, even from people who don't necessarily have maybe a Middle Eastern culture or any of that kind of very family-centric, food-centric culture, everyone was like, that looked so fun. And they're like, I want to be a part of that family, or I want to start traditions like that. So I guess that would be my hope, is that maybe if they're not from that kind of background, it inspires them to, you know, make their own traditions or try to think more meaningfully about how can I create that sort of setting around my next table, next meal, whether it's with friends or family. But that is a really good question. And I think things like this and festivals and whatnot have been really eye-opening to how it does actually get received, because otherwise you don't know, right? You're just making this in a room for days on end by yourself, maybe with some other people. But once you get it out there, I think is really when you can kind of see, and it will help, you know, inform your next project.
Wow, some incredible answers to some really great questions. Ruth, I believe you got a question next.
I have. Hello, thanks ever so much, filmmakers. It's been a great program, real diverse range of films. My question is for Abby. I think you were talking earlier about catharsis, and I think it is amazing that you've taken this tragic moment from your life and made it so beautiful. You know, was that kind of like a journey? Did you start off at a point of grief, or was it, I'm not going to let this tragedy define me? Or I mean, you said you found photos and you found the beauty actually on site. It's amazing that there is so much beauty in your film. And I just thought, could you just speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, I'm not over the fire still, but I think it was a way for me to process the event and the events after it. And also a way to reframe my thinking, to see it as something that, yes, was awful, but I mean, the butterfly effect of every event can lead to some amazing things. And I mean, it led to me doing an animation degree, which I'm currently doing. And I wouldn't have had that if that fire hadn't happened. I wouldn't have had to leave my job and change everything. So I think it was a way for me to look back and be like, yes, that was awful, that was terrible, but there was also something beautiful from it. And I have these stack of photos that had such amazing, beautiful textures that I couldn't recreate. I couldn't Photoshop. I couldn't bleach, I couldn't boil. I was trying everything to recreate these textures. And yeah, I think I was really in awe that something so beautiful could come from something so horrific. So yeah, I really want to dive into that and just bring that to life. Yeah.
Have
But
you
thank you.
shared your film with other people that have suffered through sort of fires at all?
Yes. So a couple of my actual neighbours are on the they're doing some of the voiceovers from it. So I got them to watch it first, and yeah, they felt, obviously they really connected to it. But I think it helped them with their mindset and their memories of the day as well. Yeah, it was really gratifying to make, and yeah, of course, really cathartic and rewarding in the end.
Brilliant, thanks. It's just amazing that you've got so much positivity over that moment. So fantastic film, thank you.
Sorry, can I also quickly follow up on that? Did it make you feel like you had a small degree of control over something that happened to you that was ultimately out of your control?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of filmmaking, at least my filmmaking's normally about control. Yeah, it again, to be able to reframe that into something beautiful rather than destructive was really important for me. And yeah, I had complete control over the process, even though it felt like the film had a mind of its own. I find that with every single one of my films I make. But yeah, it was just really helpful to be able to guide that and condense that down into a 2-minute film. So, yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. I think we have a question from John in the front row.
Hi, my question's for Raphael. I was intrigued by the fact that you made the film without any sound in mind, and then you gave it to the sound engineers who you felt enhanced the film considerably with the sound. What I'm interested in is, did you ever listen to the sound without the film? Does the sound need the film in the same way as the film needed the sound?
Fantastic question.
I really like that question. I've actually never thought about it, I guess, or I've never tried it. Maybe I should do. If I think about it, I could imagine that it makes something new when you just listen to it without the image and without knowing the image. And that would be hard. I can't forget the images. I probably have the images in my mind when I hear it. So maybe someone who hasn't seen the film has to listen to it first, and then you have to see it. And yeah, it could be really interesting. It would be like the Derek Jarman Blue, which I really like. So I think it's a great experience when you don't know the image. Yeah.
You can always trust John to throw a great question out there. We've got a question at the back. Yeah, we have a question up the top.
Hi, this is a question for everyone. The question I'm trying to ask is, with all the films that you've made today, well, that's been screened today, would there be anything that you would want to change or wanted to keep that didn't get to the final cut?
Should we go to Margaret first for this one?
Should we go to Margaret first to answer for that one?
That's a great question. I guess I feel like, or at least I want to believe, that the film is as good as it can be with the material I got. Maybe it could be better some way if I had more time to film. Maybe also not. I don't know that. But with in that sense, like I don't feel like there is anything that I had to leave out that I feel that should be in it or anything like that. Yeah, I think it's as good as it can be. I like this.
Fantastic. Should we move over to Minna to answer?
I think it's hard not to critique yourself sometimes, and especially looking back at it now, there's a lot that I would wish I did differently, but in the process of making it, I was just trying to get it done. I was just trying to get through it and actually create something. So I'm still happy of the fact that it's finished and looks good, you know, overall. It's also hard when it's, you know, memories that you're trying to condense and who's important in the family to include the most, what moments are the best, what photos are, you know, going to speak the most. So it's definitely something that I've always thought, even while making it, I knew that there was kind of more than just this. And I would love to, at another time, kind of revisit it and make, whether or not it's the same exact thing, but some sort of rendition that still involves food and family, because that's so important to me, and kind of sharing the stories in a different way or a new way to expand on the idea. But I think for what it is, I'm content.
So, with that being said, would you be interested in making like a longer version of the film that already exists to include more memories?
Yeah, I think for sure it'd be really nice, especially because I didn't expect that I would even kind of have those like three tones throughout it. It like starts with like very intense music and the drum beat and everything, and then it kind of slows down a little bit to the family chatter, and then you have the more like solemn kind of heavier moments at the end. And I thought it was going to be the upbeat drums, you know, the whole time. So I think how it evolved into those three separate tones, I would love to have, love to recreate it in a way that is more drawn out, so that each can kind of have a lot more time to their own, or maybe just focus on one of those tones and expand on that.
Yeah, that'd be incredible to see. Raphael, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so we didn't have much material, so there's actually 98% in the film which we shot. I thought about that sometimes, and maybe I would, how can I explain it? I would make it with more effort. Because it's made pretty rough, and maybe that's the case. That's why it kind of works. But if I could redo it, I would make it more with more time and more people. So with more support behind the camera, so that it can maybe look better in some. So because we didn't use any light, we just shot outside and didn't have so much time, and we had to do it in during the winter and couldn't wait until the summer. And yeah, maybe I would think about another kind of story to transport what we wanted to do, because it was like a concept film. It wasn't like we just did stuff. We thought about what we want to do and what should happen in the film so we can do it. So each aspect influences the other thing. And yes, so there's a concept, and maybe one could do the same concept with another kind of story, so it has more depth maybe, because it just doesn't tell much. It's just a flow, which I also like, but I think one could do it different.
Interesting. Okay, and Abby?
Yeah, I mean, I think there could have been 100 films based on the subject that I did. Originally, I wanted it to be more on the items that we were given back. So like childhood guitars, vinyls, rusty cutlery, and broken plates and bowls. But I think it's really hard to be objective about something that's so personal. So I don't think I would change anything. I think it was able to be mesmerizing and trance-like. I think that was ultimately my goal. So yeah, otherwise I'd just keep going. I'd be making it forever. So yeah, I'm happy with it.
The never-ending film project.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions in the room?
I have the microphone. Can I ask a question?
Oh, of course. Please feel free.
Yes. Well, I want to ask a question to Raphael about the process of working. You told us quite a bit about how you worked, but my question was, did the title come first or did the shots come first? I mean, why A Train Arrives? Where's the train?
Yeah, the title was, I think, the last thing that came. It had a different title. I didn't even had a title when we made it. So it was a concept, and actually, when we sat in the editing room and we watched it for the first time, we realized, oh, it is kind of a horror film. Okay, but the title, so it's not actually about a train. It's like this subway where it starts, and sure, it's never shown, but that's all. That's not what I wanted to tell with the title. I think I want to kind of build a bridge back to the beginning of the film, not actually the first film, but the film from the Lumières. And yeah, also how one could work with this material in our time. And the topic of the train is also something that was constantly there during the film history. And also the Peter Tchaikovsky made an experimental film which is called Train Again, which deals with the topic of trains in film history. And I thought it would be interesting and funny maybe to sneak into this theme of trains in film history. And I thought it could fit because the film is more about the film process itself and the film material itself, and the influence we as filmmakers have on the material and also on what's inside the film reality.
That's great. That's interesting. I think it's a third element because you have the sound, you have the image, and you have the title, and you play with it in your mind. So thank you.
Perfect. I think we are almost out of time, so I've got one more question before we go. It's for Abby. Abby, your film was incredibly unique, both in terms of story and aesthetic. Was there actually any inspiration for it, or was it just entirely your brainchild?
Yeah, so Emily Scaife did a film called Attraction, which is about insects and pollen. And so I took a lot of inspiration in terms of the really vibrant visuals. Beautiful, beautiful film, I highly recommend. But I mean, the fire was all me, and then some of the sequences I used cyanotype printing. So where you can actually see the roof burning, that's actual footage that I shot at the time, which then went through a printing process where it's cyanotype, so you have to print out on acetate and then leave it in the sun and then wash it and then invert it because it's blue. But yeah, most of it again is just throwing stuff at a page and literally seeing what sticks, and a lot of it doesn't work, but it managed to come together in the end. It was a lot of fun.
Incredible. Okay, so that is unfortunately all we've got time for. That was a very interesting Q&A session.
It was an amazing Q&A session.
Of course it was. It always
I feel like we've had a lot of great questions and some even better answers.
Oh, definitely. And I think they've really enhanced the films.
I think it was very enlightening,
Yeah,
like genuinely
definitely.
enlightening. Getting to hear, all of your thoughts behind how you made them.
Mm-hmm. So this one's particularly for the filmmakers. Please do join us tomorrow. We've got our awards night tomorrow. You guys obviously all have a chance of winning the experimental paper bird as well as the audience paper bird. So please encourage everyone to vote for that online. I'm pretty sure we've sent out links. If not, we'll send them again. And to the audience as well, please keep voting. Please keep watching and come back and join us tomorrow. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, directors, for being here as well. Could we have a round of applause for the directors?
Come on.
Thank you very much, guys. Perfect. So we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much.
See everyone tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was the last day.